Okay, so they are coming in. Okay, so we'll get started in about 2 minutes to allow the rest of the participants to enter the room. Okay. Just trying to see how they're looking like.
You have to read it. Oh, because you also have the children.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'm Nairn-Mullings, founder of the Ballin by the Beach organization, and I'm here alongside Mrs. Monique Hinsey of Global College Access, and collectively, we are bringing you day 3 of the Student Summer Success Series for our exciting segment on the college athlete and coaching through the crisis. Wow, what a gathering we have here tonight. It's gratifying to look at the list of attendees and see so many familiar names. We have students, coaches, parents, guidance counselors, and athletic administrators all brought together for one cause: to engage in critical conversations about college athletics after COVID. Here is an appreciative welcome to all of our attendees. Thank you for being here. To our panelists, I am staring at my screen and I am in awe with the collected expertise gathered here, the leaders and decision makers of college athletics. We have athletic directors and head coaches, or as I like to call them, the bosses. The majority of whom started where many of you are today. They started right here in the Bahamas and steadily climbed the ladder to success to where they are today. And I can tell you one thing: knowledge sharing events like these were not available when they were in your position. I digress. I am deeply honored to have represented here today such a decorated panel made up of colleagues, mentors, and my most trusted friends. Here's an appreciative welcome to what I know is going to be a great virtual event. So before I move to introductions, here are a few tips to ensure that we have a smooth event tonight. If you're not speaking, we ask that you mute your mics. The panelists will answer a series of questions. If you have questions at any time, please use the Q&A feature and we will ask your question on your behalf after the panelist discussion. You also can use the raise hand feature once we get to the Q&A segment. You'll be able to ask your questions live. Toward the end of the Q&A segment, we will launch a quick feedback survey, and we ask that all panelists and attendees take about 20 seconds to complete it. And now for our introductions. Tonight, we have with us the bosses of college athletics. Kimberley Rolle, Athletic Director of the University of the Bahamas in Nassau, Bahamas. We have Coach Yolett McPhee-McCuin, better known as Coach Yo, who is the head coach of the women's basketball at the University of Mississippi in Oxford, Mississippi, and also the Bahamas senior women's basketball national team head coach. We have Dr. Stephany Coakley, who is the assistant athletic director and mental health coach at Temple University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We have Chris Fireman Brown, who is the head coach of track and field at Clayton State University in Morrow, Georgia, and our Olympic gold medalist. We have Albert Roche, the athletic director at Holland College in Prince Edward Island, Canada. We have Edric, who is the former head coach of women's volleyball at Florida State College in Jacksonville, and also a former Bahamas national men's and women's volleyball coach. We also have with us Tara Owens, who is the athletic director of Central State University in Wilberforce, Ohio. And we have Shawn Trochim, the athletic director of McLennan College in Waco, Texas. Wow. We have such a diverse and dynamic platform, and I'm truly excited. So we're going to take a few minutes. But first, let's give a virtual hand clap to our panel, and as they give us a brief introduction of themselves and their institutions, and they'll share with us their favorite thing about the Bahamas or some other fun fact. So our panelists, you can go ahead and introduce yourselves. We can start with Albert Roche at Holland College.
Unmute yourself.
There we go. We good now?
Yes.
Great. Greetings from Prince Edward Island, Canada. We're on the east coast of Canada, Canada's smallest province. We have spent a lot of time in the Bahamas, about 15 years now, recruiting students and student athletes and developing relationships, to the point where last year we had entertained over 170 students from the Bahamas at our campuses. We've made a mark across Canada for a small college with a big attitude in terms of athletics. The number of sports we entertain as a small college, again, are diverse. We've had students from the Bahamas probably over the last at least 12 years in sports, basketball, American football, football, soccer, baseball, volleyball. Our dance team is a decorated team and featuring a lot of students from the Bahamas. So the list goes on. We're an institution that, again, is very much pleased to, 5 of the last 6 years, we've had the most scholar athletes in Canada, as well as the last 4 out of 5 years had the most academic all-Canadians in the country. So we do take our academics seriously, and the performance of our student athletes in the classroom and in the field of play is of paramount importance to us. Fortunate enough to play a lot of varsity sports myself when I went through university ice hockey, baseball, and at the back end of that experience, I was turned as a golf professional too. So lots of experience as a student athlete, then some coaching experience, and founded the athletics program at Holland College about 15 years ago.
Wow, thank you for that introduction. Next up, we have Kimberley Rolle from the University of the Bahamas.
Good evening, everyone. University of the Bahamas is a very, very young athletic program. Currently, we're independent. We're seeking to transition to the NAIA Sun Conference. That is our goal. That's what we're working on. For those of you that don't know, previously we were the College of the Bahamas. We transitioned to the University of the Bahamas less than 4 years ago. So we're now home of the Mingos. And a lot of people ask, well, what is a Mingo? And so, you know, the University of the Bahamas is the national institution in the country. And so our national bird is the flamingo. And so we thought we would play on that. Of course, our colors are royal blue. And so the connection, people is like, well, a flamingo is pink, you're blue. But what most people don't know is that when a flamingo is birthed, it's a gray bluish color, and it gets its color from its diet. So it's not born naturally pink. And so that is why we are the Mingos. So if you look at it, the flamingo originally comes from a gray blue color. And so we're home of the Mingos. We figure we won't find another institution that's named Mingos. And so we've got a fledgling program. We have 10 teams. Some of them are very small, like golf and judo. Those are our smaller teams. But of course, our flag programs are a track and field program where we have developed some really good, strong athletes. A couple of whom hold, well, one in particular, Ken Mullings, hold a national record. And so we're looking really to continue to build the program in the interest of keeping them away from persons like Chris and Yolett. And so, but you know, really and truly, it's just to give students an opportunity. When I was, and Yolett could certainly attest to it, when we were coming up, we didn't have that opportunity to go to our local university. And so now kids have that opportunity. And so it's just about expanding and providing kids with as many opportunities as possible and to train at home. You know, we've seen the success that some persons have had training locally, and we believe that we can be, you know, the feeder system for our national teams because we are a national institution, so everything that we do is national in nature. And so I'm really looking forward to discussing more with you guys, seeing where you guys are headed post-COVID-19, because it's an interesting time for all of us, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Next up, we have Dr. Stephany Coakley.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Mullings and Ms. Hinsey. And most importantly, thank you to all the attendees and my esteemed colleagues on the call for this opportunity tonight. I'm at Temple University. I'm actually Temple alum, and I returned to Temple 3 years ago to be the first Senior Associate AD for Mental Health, Wellness, and Performance. And in that role, I am responsible for the mental health. I tell people I'm responsible for this part of a student athlete, but as I often say everything that we do starts with that part of the body. So the brain is the mainframe. So 525 student athletes, 16 sports or athletic programs. And we are in an urban environment in Philadelphia, which I think has, many valuable qualities for student athletes who come there. We actually have 2 Bahamian student athletes, I'm happy to say. And perhaps we'd like to get some more. Sorry, Kim. And one fun fact about me is that I was actually in Nassau on the weekend and the beaches were closed and I was a little bit devastated. So, but I'm happy to be here tonight and I look forward to learning and from all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Coakley. Hopefully you can come back soon and stick your toes in the sand. Next up, we have Coach Yolett McPhee-McCuin.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Just really appreciative and blessed to be here. This evening is 5:15 here. So, y'all got me right before dinner. So, just a little bit about me, just born and raised in the Bahamas. Graduated from Grand Bahama Catholic High School in 2000. Came to the United States by way of college athletics, basketball. Played 4 years collegiately, and my coach encouraged me to get into coaching. And 16 years later, I'm the head coach at the University of Mississippi. Married, 2 kids, so I've been busy. But pretty much for me, I'm a CEO. I have a staff of 13 individuals, and I have a team of 15. I deal with a budget of, $2 million every year. And, and I play in the #1 conference in the country. It's arguable. It's the SEC. It's definitely one of the most competitive. So night in and night out, we're up against top of the line competition. I'm in the front lines and a lot of stuff, always on media and just high stress job. And so luckily for me, I have a family that keeps me afloat, and I've been able to balance that way. Just really appreciative to be here. I have a Bahamian on my team, Valerie Nesbitt. She's from Nassau, and she's entering her senior year, and we're expecting great things from her. So really just appreciative to be here.
Thank you, Coach Yo. Next up, we have Shawn Trochim from McLennan College.
Hello, everyone, and I appreciate the opportunity to be with this panel. I'm the athletic director at McLennan Community College in Waco, Texas. Waco is a central part of Texas, located right in the middle of Dallas, the north part of us, and Austin in the south. Our community college, we have 7 sports that includes men and women's basketball, men and women's golf, baseball, softball, and our dance team is in the athletic department. I've been working at McLennan for 25 years, just finished my 25th year. My first 10 years, I coached the women's basketball team. I graduated from Texas A&M, where I was a member of the women's basketball team there. We have great sports. We are lucky enough to have 2 Bahamians, one on our staff. Jamal Green is our men's assistant basketball coach, and we just graduated a women's basketball player, Anya Moss, who is going to be attending a school in the SWAC, Mississippi Valley State, yes, exactly. And she was one of my favorite kids that I got an opportunity to watch her grow, learn, and we are excited about getting an opportunity to further our international student athletes. So I'm excited to be here and excited to, answer all the questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Coach Trochim. Next up, we have Coach Poitier.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be able to join all of you this afternoon, and I really appreciate the opportunity to join such an esteemed panel. I just finished a stint at Florida State College of Jacksonville, which is a Division I junior college, but I was in transition. Well, I am in transition. I had 2 opportunities at Division II schools, but the conference shut down, and so they just decided to back off and wait until the spring. And so I'm just right now the technical director and head coach of the 15th national team for Powers Volleyball Club, which is the 2nd largest club team or club organization in the city of Jacksonville. We have 135 kids right now. We are at AAU Nationals in Orlando, where there's 1,200 teams participating this weekend. It's down from a normal 3,000 teams national championship, but because of COVID, a lot of teams decided not to participate. But yeah, I'm here, and hopefully I'll be in a situation in the spring where I can perhaps get a whole lot more Bahamians involved in volleyball. I'm a volleyball coach, and so that's my level of expertise. That's what I do. I've coached the Bahamas national team for a number of years back in the 90s. We've had quite a bit of success, and I've had quite a number of Bahamians play for me over the years. Actually, one of my players was just promoted to the head coach position at St. Augustine's University, where I coached her back in 2003. Takara Moxie, a student from C.I. Gibson. I think she graduated back in 98. Some of you might know her. She's now the head coach, and that's one of the reasons I coach. I coach in order to produce more coaches. And so that's my goal, to continue to build on the athletic abilities of Bahamians. Thank you.
Great stuff. Thank you, Coach Poitier. And next up, we have Chris Brown from Clayton State University.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me, Ms. Mullins. I'm very excited to be here today. I'm a 5-time Olympian. I represented the Bahamas and enjoyed doing it every single step of the way. 1-time gold medalist, 1-time silver, 3 times bronze medalist, double gold medalist at the Pan American Games, World Indoor Championship medalist for 6 years in a row. Then what else? Move on to coaching. Went on as the assistant coach for 1 year, and less than a year, 9 months later, I think I was promoted to the head coach. We had a great team. We didn't have a Bahamian on the team, and now we have 1 Bahamian so far on the team, Sasha Rolle. She's coming from SAC, and we're looking to increase that number eventually. So, Coach, we'll be stealing a few more Bahamian athletes to get them some international exposure. We had a chance and opportunity to win the conference this year, but because of COVID-19, that didn't happen. Our kids were really looking forward to it. We came 4th last year. We missed the 3rd spot place in the podium for the first time. That's the top finish we ever had in the program history. We also won an indoor meet for the first time in the school program history, and the program's been around for about 20 years, 25 years. We won our first indoor meet. What else? And we were looking forward to the outdoor season. Like I said, we came fourth, which was 2 spots. We lost it by 2 spots of getting on the podium. And this year we were looking to get on the podium, at least to win it. But because of the COVID-19, it kind of shut the season down for us. But that made us stronger. Kids are excited about coming and returning. We're looking forward to a great season. We have a lot of talent. We had about 2 Bahamians that were scheduled to show up and be a part of our team. But again, because of this virus, that didn't happen also. So we're just looking forward to the future and looking to recruit some more Bahamian talent, some island talent, basically, no matter where you're from. But this is going to be a good year for us next year once things clear up. And I'm excited to be here and looking forward to the questions. And I'm proud to be a part of your panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay, So we have the introductions from all of our panelists, and next we'll move on to some of our questions to get the conversation started. Audience, you'll have the opportunity to ask your questions at the end, but if you have a question, to make sure you don't forget it, make sure you can use the Q&A feature, put them in there, and we'll be sure to address it toward the end. Now, the essence of this conversation will be surrounding the COVID-19 topic, but if you have other questions, please feel free to ask those as well. You have some of the top coaches, you have athletic directors at your disposal. If you have burning questions, this is the time to get them answered and addressed. Okay, now for our questions. So the coronavirus has brought major disruptions to the world of college sports, disrupting recruiting, competing, and disrupting the overall traditional college experience. Can you share what has been some of your program's urgent priorities? What gives you hope that we will see this thing through? What advice can you offer to coaches and student athletes who feel like their plans and dreams have been disrupted? And feel free to jump in, just grab the mic and we'll flow.
Okay, I'll start. I mean, right now it's a stressful time for everybody. Being honest, I don't want to come on here and not say that it's a concern for everybody. Everyone's affected by it, especially us being here with football on the horizon. Football brings in $66 million to this university. And so if we don't have football, it could be catastrophic as far as people losing jobs and et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, for me, what I try to do, and I guess that's my advice would be, I try to just be positive. I try to control the controllables. I try to work on my mental fitness by working out. You know, I work out every day just to the stresses and the anxiety, because there are a lot of things that are uncertain, a lot of things we can't control. 1 minute, you had the president saying that he was taking away everyone's, you know, visas, student visas and whatnot. But that has been a fight, and it seems like it's turning. So that's a positive thing. So as long as we get through this, you all will have an opportunity. I know for you, Miss Rolle, that could work for you, but they'll all be coming to the University of Bahamas. But for the ones that have come over and made a way for themselves, you know, it's a stressful time. So I would just say, stay informed, work on your mental fitness and physical, meditate, work out, be positive, and try not to watch too much Fox or CNN, because it really make you want to jump off of a cliff. You know, just everything's going to work itself out. We all will have to adjust, and you know, and I think sometimes you may be delayed but never denied. So just stay positive.
Hi, good afternoon. I think I'll go. So what we're combating at Temple is that, you know, we have many stakeholders. We have the state that's governing behavior. We have the city that is also governing behavior. Then we have our university that is governing behavior. And then the athletic department is down there at the bottom trying to govern behavior. And, you know, those are a lot of factors that we have to control. Well, actually not control, we have to consider when whatever we're responsible for. So like in my little foxhole, I'm responsible for mental health. And so I can't do other people's job. I'm staying in my lane. So like Coach Roche says, controlling the controllables. One of the things, I know that there are people at the president's level at the university and at the mayor's level in the city, they're handling their responsibilities. So the only thing that I can do is, you know, mind my shop. And so that is the 525 plus student athletes who are anxious, who are kind of scared, don't want to just get disappointed again. We have student athletes who lost seasons in the spring And, you know, we have student athletes who that didn't impact in the spring, and they thought that it wouldn't impact them. And now with, you know, with all the cancellations and changes in conferences, like there is this real potential that fall sports could be impacted. And so just helping the 18 to 23, 4-year-olds manage what that means to them. So control the controllables, your fitness, like Coach said, your sleep, your nutrition, hit the books. You know, those are the things that's never gonna hurt you. If you're, you know, hitting the books and your grades are going up, that's gonna improve your stock, if you will. If you are doing the workouts that coaches and stuff are giving you, that's gonna strengthen your abilities, your physical abilities. So like, that's kind of like how I'm dealing with it. Telling people to stay in your lane, do what you're responsible for, and then let other people take care of what they're responsible for. Because I can't be responsible for the whole state, the university, like, no, so.
Thank you.
Well, I know for us, our focus since COVID has purely been on the student athlete. First and foremost, their wellness from a personal standpoint, because COVID has had such a huge fallout in our country. As most of you know, we're a tourism-based industry. And so, you know, when both of your parents work in the hospitality industry, you know, athletics and academics is the last thing on your mind. You're trying to figure out, you know, how are you going to live? You know, how are you going to manage? You know, how are you going to eat? How are you going to pay rent? So, and obviously once those kind of stresses are on parents, they transfer to the student, you know, and so we were doing all we can to ensure that, you know, first and foremost, that our students were well, you know, and as much as we could have helped and try to steer them in directions where they could receive assistance, we tried to do that, you know, and then secondly, we tried to stay on them as much as we could as it relates to their academics, you know, for some of our athletes, remote operations, they took off. For some of them, it was devastating, absolutely devastating. We have a high percentage of our student athletes are first generation college attendees. And so, of course, they come from disadvantaged situations. When we found out probably about 2 weeks into COVID that, you know, a goodly number of them didn't have laptops. So they weren't getting their work done. They were trying as much as they can to do stuff on their phones. And so, you know, you reach out to the group, nobody responds, but then when you reach out personally, one-on-one, then you start to get the feedback. Well, I haven't turned in any work in a week or 2 weeks because I don't have a laptop, I don't have access. And so we worked very closely with our Dean of Students and our IT department who tried to assist as best as they could, you know, with getting some of the student athletes laptops so that they can be able to do, you know, so I mean, like those were the things that we were really focused on at COVID because, you know, we couldn't control the other stuff. So we said, let's try to see how best we can help these guys from a personal standpoint and then academically, you know, to ensure that they stay on a path, that they don't get terribly behind in their schoolwork and they just, you know, withdraw. And so those were the things that we really kind of focus on. Some of them got off to a slow start, but then, you know, with some coaching and some encouragement. And of course, like all of us know, we know who the high risk persons are in our community. And so we had to pay special attention to that group, turn them on to our professional counselors, you know, to get the assistance and the guidance that they need, to get online tutoring virtually, however, you know, to really kind of feed them that information to get them through, you know, because more than anything, we want to see the first generation people succeed, right? Because they're setting a path for their younger siblings, for their cousins. And many of their family members are looking up to them. And so we're going to try our best to, you know, ensure that those persons stay on the path. So really and truly, you know, like Coach Yolett say, you control the controllables. We cannot control any of the health related stuff. We try to assist our students as best we can, provide them with systems and operations to help them and to keep them on a path during the spring semester.
Mute.
Well, I know for us, you know, with track, our kids basically, you know, they took it really hard. Luckily, the fact that I was preparing them for things like this and didn't really know, because every time we show up to practice, I would tell them, you know, don't take anything for granted. You know, today you could be here, tomorrow it could be gone. And so preaching that in their head over and over again, and also encouraging them to strengthen their faith, you know, that's basically what I think got our athletes a lot motivated than some other kids, because they were down for the first, I guess, day or two or week, and their spirits, I can tell that their spirits start to lift once we start zooming, and because they went home for spring break, you know, they went home knowing that it's a break, and we get to spend spring break, and then we're looking to go back and start competition, and that never happened. So we just try to encourage them to communicate with each other more. Do whatever workout you have to do, you know that when it blows over, know that you will be in shape versus just laying inside the house and watching TV and sleeping all day, because it can be depressing. So for us, it's like, hey, constant communication, you know, FaceTime, WhatsApp, text messages, Zoom, I mean, you name it. And every time I speak with one of them, their spirits are always up, because if they hear that I'm speaking and my spirit is down, that's going to do something to them. So I just try to call them every single day and have a nice pitch voice and show them that I'm upbeat, and we can't control, you know, what's going on. So for us, it's just basically take it one day at a time. So that way, if something happens, if the season get canceled again, you wouldn't be disappointed. You would know, okay, coach prepared us for this and be ready for what's to come. So it's all about just keeping them positive and keeping their mind in a happy attitude, giving them a happy environment for them to feed off of, because you set the tune at the end of the day. You know, they look up to us as leaders to guide them. And if we sad and we disappointed and we having a bad day or hanging our heads down because of this virus, we send that same message down to the kids. And some of them already coming from a generation that don't have much and looking for that family support when they get to your office or they see you on a daily basis. So we just try to keep their spirits up as much as we can, and that's the best we can do and play day by day. And hopefully the good Lord will see all of us through this one at the end of the day.
He will.
Yes, he will. He definitely will.
Comment up here in Canada, and we've been pretty fortunate to try to limit the number of cases, and it's an ongoing battle, and feel for young people that you know, we have to take care of their safety first. There's this cloud of fear that you know, is hanging over a lot of people, and you know, our grandparents and our parents and our aunts and uncles and siblings and so on. So, you know, as student athletes, they have a certain level of privilege in our communities, and we're trying to communicate at our institution, number one, to ensure that all our coaches are intact, that we're poised and ready to provide good athletic programs, are ready to do battle as soon as possible, but challenging our student athletes and those that have returned and those that we've been discussing opportunities with. President was pretty forthright in terms of honoring scholarships, regardless of whether we're going to be in competition this year or not. And I think therein lies the support network that has to come with the motivation that fights your way through uncertainty. A lot of our student athletes, and I know this panel is witness to them every day, you know, a big part of their identity is athletics. And that motivates them to do well in school. And we got to be very, very careful to maintain that personality, that identity, and that attachment to academics and so on. You know, a lot of risk out there of student athletes falling away, not motivated, fighting through that isolation, and again, trying to reach every student athlete, both the incoming new student athletes, but also those that are returning, to suggest that, you know, the family atmosphere has to exist, that you have to be there for each other. And, you know, we did a lot of online conditioning and a lot of virtual strength and conditioning and so on. we saw some athletes fall away, but the sense of community brought them back. And the broader you can create that community and bring them back to the identity that got them where they are today is truly important.
Hello. Yeah, unfortunately, I live in a state where everything is business as usual. I mean, I'm in Florida, and nothing has really shut down like other places. And high schools are preparing for their season. They're practicing, doing summer workout. Right now, we're at AAU Nationals because the state of Florida is open to competition. And but they've put a whole lot of safety measures in place. For example, if I walk my team into the arena and one of my players has a temperature over 100, the entire team is disqualified from the rest of the tournament. We have to go home. And so what they're trying to do with this tournament is try to set a barometer to see how they're going to go or what they're going to do with the high school series. All of the safety measures they put in place and what we're doing here. Athletic directors from high schools are looking at it to determine how they're going to go forward with their season. I think colleges and universities have a similar, a totally different perspective, simply because most of them compete with other schools that are not in the state of Florida. And so, but because high schools, you only compete against schools in the state, they're able to do or to play competition simply because they don't have to go out of the state and have to deal with laws in other states that would prevent them from having meetings with more than a certain number of people. But there's absolutely no restrictions here other than what the operators of this tournament has put in place to try and control the spread of this virus. And one of the things that they noted this morning is that, listen, you walk into Costco's and Sam's, and there's a whole lot more people congregating than what we have here at the convention center in Orlando. And no one is at the door at Costco's or Sam's with a thermometer checking to see who's coming in with a high temperature. And so that's some of the things that they're doing here in the state of Florida just to see how they're going to move forward with the remainder of the sporting season based on what happens here with this huge tournament here in Orlando.
Okay, thank you, Coach Poitier. All right, so moving on to our second question. This one is specifically for our coaches. With the cloud of uncertainty that lies ahead and more in-person recruiting events being canceled or postponed, how are you communicating with the athletes that you're recruiting? And what can prospective student athletes, particularly international student athletes, do to stand out and distinguish themselves? Additionally, what can high school coaches do to enhance the quality of student athletes they produce? Who wants to take that first?
I guess I'll take it. Coach Poitier, he don't want to answer it, but I'll take it. You know, I would say to coaches, you know, other coaches, to just continue to train your kids, continue to motivate them. You know, you just don't know what may happen tomorrow. This thing may disappear just as well as it came in, you know. For me, recruiting actually came in my favor because I didn't really have to go out and look for kids. You know, they came to me. You know, a lot of the kids that's here in the state of Georgia, there's a lot of talent, and those kids would end up going to the big Division I schools, or they would go out of state because, hey, they want to feel like I'm not staying at home. I'm going out. I'm leaving the country. I'm leaving the state, and so those kids, because of COVID-19, it actually helped me because those kids are now calling my phone. These are the type of kids that I'm looking to recruit. So they're knocking on my door, and I'm happy that, you know, not saying what's going on, but I'm happy that they are now recognizing that you can perform, you can have that type of performance at home, and you don't have to go away to a big school, or you don't have to you don't have to leave the state. You know, that's the most important thing, is because it's still cheaper. It's cheaper for you to go to school in the state where you're from, you know, and it's more expensive to go out of state. So this will open the doors for me to build that mega powerhouse team that I'm looking to build, and hopefully win 1 or 2 championships, and you know, be able to recruit a few Bahamian athletes. Like I said, I have 1 already. 2 of them were scheduled to come, but because of the COVID-19, you know, and also the funding now. So, you know, a lot of budgets are being cut. So funding now is top priority for budgets, you know, for schools. So for us now, it scaled back on what we wanted to bring in, who we wanted to bring in. And so therefore, you know, I'm glad that the talent is just knocking on my door, and I don't have to go far to look for it. But it's just a blessing, and it's also, you know, a curse, I would say, or a hurt, you know. And so I'm just looking forward to you know, what the season bring, and hopefully we can definitely bring in some international students and be able to help them to further their education.
Okay. Thank you,
Uh,
Chris.
uh, oh, sorry.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Mike here.
No, what I was going to say is what I think high school coaches can do to enhance the quality of their athletes. Now that we're in a situation where we really can't work with a full team of athletes because we have to social distance, I think it gives coaches a better opportunity to work one-on-one with individual kids, and those who they identify as kids that have the opportunity to go off and play at the college level, spend some extra time with them and try to enhance their skills. And just you probably won't be able to get your team back together because there might not be a season this year, but that doesn't stop you from working with individuals and preparing them for a different level. And in fact, I think it's a blessing that you have this time that you can actually put into individual workout with kids.
Okay. Thank you, Coach Poitier.
I just wanted to add to that, great points by everybody. Film, you know, film, get the film out, send film. I get film from players probably on the hour, you know, so any type of, everybody has cell phones now, right? So sometimes if you're doing something, if you're working out, if you're participating in an event, if you've had, if record it, if you don't have the space, you know, some of y'all cheap, so y'all got the flip phone still, right? So if you don't have the space, it's okay. Go live on Facebook or Periscope, and that stuff saves. And now you have something, because we go everywhere. We look everywhere to find talent right now. And right now, more than ever, you can get an attention of a coach. But you have to be aggressive. You have to reach out. You cannot sit back and wait for someone to help you or whatever. If there are schools that you're interested in, you know, go after those, or go mass, send it out to everyone and see which one sticks. You know, either way works, but I just know that right now we're watching a lot of film. We're doing everything via Zoom, even though my players are here. When we meet, it's via Zoom. So, because we're practicing social distancing. So our eyes are always on the computer. So send it, get emails, populate a database where you could put the coach, the school, the coach's emails, and get it out to them, reach out.
And if that is like a foreign language to any of you panelists, in my capacity with the Ministry of Education, I have an entire program dedicated to helping student athletes do exactly that. So I can help you with your profiles. I can help you with film, because that's something that we lack here in the Bahamas. Student athletes don't record their games. Coaches don't record the games. They don't record the meets. So now it's time to make the connection, and you don't have the tools that you need. So definitely reach out. You have my contact, and I will definitely assist you in any way I can with that. It's a free program with the Ministry of Education designed just to help student athletes. ADs, I see some of you look like you want to jump in on this. If so, go ahead. We do have a few minutes. If not, I can move on to the next question. Okay. All right. So our next question, we kind of touched on it earlier, the topic of mental health getting a lot of attention. So the NCAA, they had a survey and it revealed that the majority of student athletes reported experiencing high rates of mental distress since the outset of COVID-19. Have you noticed any mental health challenges among your athletes? And what measures has your program put in place? And what resources do you have available to them? Also, you can touch on recommendations you have for coaches and students who are still facing mental health challenges through this pandemic. You touched on it earlier, but you can go into detail about some of the specific resources that you're using.
Okay. Well, at my institution, you know, like this thing has progressed. It's evolved, I guess. And so initially, when it was everybody had to go home very quickly, that transition was very abrupt, and it was harsh. So we kind of had to help student athletes transition to life at home with online classes. And one of the things our AD did was he really bulked up the communication with all the student athletes. So we were sending out a newsletter every week with any new information that came down the wire from either institution or, you know, the city, the state, the NCAA, various departments, so compliance or certainly my area. I would give a little tip or something every single week on like how to deal with stress and anxiety, how to deal with now being home with the family, how to deal with the loss of your season, how to deal with potentially the loss of your career, right? Because there were student athletes who were set to graduate and that was their season and that was it. So your career ending abruptly, how to deal with the loss. So there was a lot of loss, potentially loss of family members' lives. So just a lot of things that would affect a person's mental health. And then so there was that kind of phase one. And then when the semester ended, and I guess I want to also point out, we had some student athletes who stayed in mental health treatment because I am a therapist and I work with student athletes every day on anxiety, depression, disordered eating, you name it, academic issues, interpersonal conflicts, stuff like that. But one of the biggest stressors with our student athletes is actually being a student athlete. So I guess I want to say to anybody out there who's listening, whether you are a student athlete, a coach or whatever, like being a student athlete is not easy. I encourage all student athletes to really prioritize their mental health and wellness because there are a lot of demands that are placed on you under normal circumstances. So now we have a pandemic, student athletes go home and their stressors actually went down, to be quite honest. For many of them, their stresses went down, but then as it progressed, so near phase two, school shuts down and still all this uncertainty, what's gonna happen? So we had to kind of like change the communication. So now we're having a lot of Zoom calls. Coaches are Zooming with their kids. I'm Zooming with kids. The athletic department is having either international student Zooms or tomorrow we're having an all student athletes Zoom just to talk about like return to campus protocols. So just a lot of communication. So that's, you know, that's key because the student athletes have questions. We don't necessarily have the answers, but it's nice for them to hear from us that we don't have the answers, but we know what you are interested in knowing. And as soon as we have those answers, we will provide them to you. So that's that. And now we're at this phase now, which is now we're back to uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen. They don't know what's going to happen. And so repeating those things like control the controllables, like what are you doing that's in your control? What are your classes looking like for next semester? If you can't practice or compete, this is the time to get that high level grade point average. And I always tell everybody, so everybody on the call, if you have mental health issues, the first thing to note that if you're wondering if you have mental health stuff going on is your sleep. If your sleep has changed, so you're not sleeping as much as you normally do, or you're sleeping way more than you normally do, like you have these changes in your sleep, that's one kind of early sign that you might be experiencing some mental health concerns. It's okay to not be okay. We always talk about that, but I always say it's not okay to not get treatment. All right, we come from a culture, I guess, where we don't do that too much. And hopefully it's changing, just like in the United States, the stigma, we're trying to break down the stigma associated with mental health. But everything that we do starts with the way we think. And if our mind is not healthy and well, our performances aren't going to be healthy and well. Our physical health is going to be compromised. So you're not doing yourself any favors by ignoring these signs of mental health distress. So treatment, communication, and just once again, prioritizing your mental health and wellness.
Okay.
Well, for us, our athletic department is very, very small. In fact, coaching staff is bigger than our athletic department. And so, we don't have quite the resource like a temple. But what we do have is we have really good rapport with our counseling services, and that's year round. And so there are 2 counselors that are specifically assigned to student athletes. And so we ensure that they engage the students throughout. So when the pandemic came, there's no getting to know this particular counselor. They were familiar. And so, as mentioned earlier, we know who those persons are who are at higher risk. And so we made sure that they engaged, because I'm the athletic director, I'm not a counselor. I don't try to be one. What I do is I offer direction to that person. And so those persons who we thought were, and who certainly expressed to us, who are having, a lot of them really having anxiety because there's a whole lot of uncertainty, right? They do not know what's gonna happen. None of us have ever been through something like this. And so, to be honest, like Dr. Coakley said, some of us as administrators, we don't have the answer. And so that's frightening for the student athlete, because they come to you for answers and you have no definitive answers. So I think that brings on stress to the student athlete. And sometimes, because they can lift this amount of weight, because they can run this fast, we often think of them as this tough individual, right? But certainly what we have done is we have directed them to our counseling services so that they can provide the support systems necessary to help get them through, this period. And it's not just their academics, but through their personal experiences during COVID-19 as well.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to our next question. So college sports differs from professional sports because all college athletes are students first and foremost. In the end, school and governmental leadership determine who can participate in, assist with, and watch student athlete practices and competition. Will your institution allow students back on campus, and how are they doing that? And how will that affect the student athletes? Do you know yet?
Here in Waco at McLennan, we're working extremely hard to get our student athletes back on campus. Our governing body, the NJCAA, had a conference call with us, and they want our students back on campus. And that's the first thing they said is get your students back on campus. And I think that that's important for all students. And as far as our athletes is concerned, is that we want our kids back on campus where we can train, where we can monitor the studying, where we can help them. Just like a lot of K through 12 kids, that their best opportunity is being at school and being on campus. And that's what we want for our student athletes and our students as well. We're just gonna work as hard as we can to get them back on. We're living in a world of uncertainty right now. We just don't know, but we know that we're going to try to play the sports that we have, and we're going to bring our student athletes back on campus as safely as possible, and to help them reach their ultimate goal, and that's to get an education and to get to the next level.
Thank you. Chris, you were going to jump in? Oh, let me unmute you.
Yes, I was gonna say exactly what she said. So she said it all.
Actually, I'd like to jump in once again. Like, we have these elaborate return to participation plans in place. We are testing student athletes. We are contact tracing. We're doing everything. And it kind of, I'm not sure. I mean, certainly putting safety first, like those are the things we have to do. And I'm not sure if we are able to manage what's going on. So while we putting all these things in place, we still need the student athletes to do all this stuff. And we have them only for a very limited time, right? So unlike high school where kids go back home to their parents' house, in college, like we have student athletes on campus right now, they're doing voluntary workouts. So that means like an hour a day. They might be taking a class. So that means like another hour a day. And so that means 22 hours of the day, they are probably putting themselves at risk because, we need them to execute the social distancing and to wear the masks and to practice proper hygiene. So I think that we're all, the athletic departments are all trying their very best to manage this crisis, but we only have 100 students on campus right now. What's going to happen when we have 40,000? And so these are the questions that people are thinking about, but once again, we don't have the answers to. So to me, it's like we are trying to deal with a hurricane, but we're out there with an umbrella. That's not really gonna help. So
Thank you, Dr. Coakley. Albert, is Holland planning to allow students back on campus in the fall? And how are they executing that? Okay.
There we go. Well, we have various layers, obviously. We have our students within Canada. A lot of our international students stayed in our province, and we worked to support them, especially our students from the Bahamas. We've undergone a lot of emergency funding measures in the last couple of years, especially in light of the hurricane situation and so on over the last year. But students that are entering or trying to enter the country internationally, we need them to work with their, obtaining their student visas, and our international department have been working with all the students that have applied to date. We have a blended program in our academic program in place now. Some of the programs have moved to distance options for the fall semester, the fall term, with a re-entry in January. Some of the programs that require much more of a lab experience have a blended program that are required to be on campus. So our goal is to ensure that we take as much measurements, and the leadership that comes from our provincial and national health authority determines our ability to host students. And obviously our goal, working with the federal government, provincial government, is to ensure that students from the Bahamas and especially focused areas in the Caribbean, that those students can get here. What will happen is they will go through getting into the country and then getting to our province, which each province in the country has different measures in place, fairly consistent across the country right now. And what would happen is we would have a quarantine period where international students would and they would be able to play as soon as we are able to get them outside. Usually we work with them. I think the plan is by August 15th, and then to be in the country, and then September 1st begin training, depending on the fall and winter sports.
All right, thank you, Albert. Okay, so moving on to our next question. And Albert, you kind of touched on it, but according to research, there are well over 20,000 international student athletes studying and competing in America, and more than 800 studying and competing in Canada. International students significantly contribute to the economic, social, and rich cultural value of college athletics. With the current global crisis and immigration restrictions, how is the pandemic impacting the athletic sustainability, as well as educational and socio-cultural sustainability of your program or department? Like, how will these athletic programs look without the student athlete, if it came to that? Without the international student athlete, that is.
Well, we will certainly take them at the University of the Bahamas, Jurelle. Certainly, we have seen that's been a positive as a result of COVID. Because of the uncertainty, a number of parents and students are hesitant to travel. And yes, we always, all of us would prefer an institution to be an athlete's first choice. But we know in the reality, that's not always the case, right? But regardless of that, you have to find a space, work with the person and provide for them the best possible experience. Having been an international student, I know the value that an international student brings to a program. There's no question about it. And even at the University of the Bahamas, we have a very, very small international community, very, very small, most of which are Caribbean. And so we've had a few international persons on our teams before, and we know the dynamics that they bring to the team. But given, you know, all of the uncertainty that COVID presents, we have seen, you know, a number of and what the university has done really in response to COVID is they've extended their deadlines, because it's almost now where we had hard and fast deadlines, and now it's like a rolling admissions, right? Because our job as the national institution is to provide a space for any Bahamian who wish to go and who qualifies for the University of the Bahamas. And so not only are we seeing our admissions numbers go up, we're also seeing an influx with our student athlete population and the interest that it's generating. And so that's been a positive for us. We still, like Dr. Coakley mentioned, all of us have these grand plans about return to play. The reality is it's our job to plan. It's our job to prepare. We really don't know how these things will happen. For example, in the Bahamas, we could experience a surge right before school opens, and that has implications for our plan. So we may very well be in phase 3, but if a surge comes, that kicks us back to phase 2 or phase 1, right? But even in the absence of that, I think it's imperative that we plan. We have been planning. I think our student athletes are anxious to get back. They're very, very strict protocols. In fact, some groupings have commenced some outdoor training. And by outdoor, Chris, we mean beach. And so usually with that, you get a lot of complaints from student athletes. But the report that I've been getting from our athletic trainers are that, you know, the student athletes are very compliant, because now before as soon as they step out of their cars, there's temperature checks. They have to answer questions. You know, there's our athletic training staff is dressed in PPE. And so they're college students for a reason. So they're not oblivious to their surroundings. And so they know that significant changes are coming. And they have so far for this week have adapted very well. They've been very compliant. But you know, there's an old adage that says absence make the heart go fonder. And so I'm really hoping that you know, having been absent from their sport would cause them to fall in love with it all over again, and would remind them of why it is that I played this sport. Why did I do this? You know, because at the end of the day, an athlete wants to compete, right? That's the reason why they train, right? I didn't like running on the tracks. I didn't like lifting the weights. In fact, I despised the weight room, but I knew that was the only way I was going to be able to play, right? And so naturally, they train, they do all these things that our coaches ask them to do, sometimes begrudgingly, but it's because ultimately they want to compete. And so without knowing what that competition looks like, it's a scary thing for our student athletes. And I really feel badly for them. I really do. And I really feel badly for our students, our seniors in particular, because some of their seasons ended abruptly. You know, like in the case of the US, some of them would not have been able to be in their last March Madness. And so that's left a really bitter taste in a lot of in their mouths as to how their collegiate career has ended. And so I think, you know, it's our job to plan and to prepare and to see how best we can, first of all, safely bring them into an environment, and then provide avenues for them to compete competitively. And that may mean, guess what? The basketball schedule is not as extensive as it used to be. It may be limited, but still to provide them with that opportunity to compete, because ultimately the athlete wants to compete. And so we have to provide a safe space for them to do that.
All right, so moving on to our next question. So pre-COVID-19, what would you say the greatest challenges for first-year international student athletes have been? What can students, their parents, and coaches do to collectively help them overcome those challenges? And you can also share some insight on what you do to transition a first-year athlete to college, and if there's anything that you do differently for an international student athlete in their transition.
I'll go first. I just think as an international student, me being one and having many, the challenge that happens, at least for basketball, I know our sport, is in the Bahamas, you probably were the best. And you come to the United States, and these kids been playing and competing and doing stuff from 5, 6 years old. You know, like my 7-year-old is on the swim team. So this is stuff they're doing at a very, very, very young age. She has a mini basketball league, you know, and she's 7. So the advantages, they're a little ahead as far as maybe skill and experience. And so a lot of times there is an adjustment, because you have to learn how to eat different foods. You know, in the Bahamas, we want the bamboo shack. You know, I know that's what I want. Vitamalt and, you know, gully wash and let it. But, but I know that when you come over here, it's different. Like at this level, at the P5, like we have nutritionists, we have, you know, and if you're gonna play for an Olympic coach, he probably wants you to eat like how he used to eat. So there's an adjustment from a social aspect, you know, because it's different cultures. There's an adjustment from a physical aspect, because kids are bigger, you know, they just, I don't know what they putting in these hormones over here, but they bigger, you know? And then you have a mental aspect because of the cultural difference. You know, back home, you may think you're working hard, but in reality, you probably average. So when you come up here, you have to adjust, you have to level up, you have to train. And I think another thing that Bahamian athletes do a lot is they come over and they forget they're Bahamian. So they get in trouble and forget that they could get kicked out, or they could get, you know what I'm saying? Like their visa could be revoked. You cannot overstay. You cannot try to skim the system. You know, like you're gonna get caught. Don't mind these people over here. They're Americans. They can't get kicked out. And so I think that's a mistake that a lot made and have to get adjusted to, which is hard. But if parents can just, before they let their kids go, just remind them, hey, you're going over there for a reason. You're there to do this. Yes, you will have friends, but understand that you've made the sacrifices for this. And then this is for the parents. A lot of parents drop their kids off and you don't ever see them ever again. And that's a problem. It's someone else's responsibility. And if this bothers you, I'm talking to you, because y'all need to do better. You know, stop dropping these kids off and not being involved ever again. That is not the right thing to do. These American parents, they on top of it. They want to know, they checking in. Make yourself available. Maybe you can't afford to fly over. Call, check in. Or you may get involved when it's a little bit too late. I had a parent, it's not here, but at another school, I had a kid get in some trouble. And the parent said, well, why you didn't call me? And I'm thinking, why you didn't call me? Like in the United States, we're not even allowed to talk about certain things because it's laws against it, privacy laws.
Confidentiality and HIPAA.
Yes, HIPAA.
HIPAA and FERPA.
Right, HIPAA is medical. But if you call, we can make some things work. But don't just try to call when it's already going left. It's already left. And so that would be my advice. Sorry, I was passionate about that because Bahamians love to drop their kids off and disappear, and it's not right.
Yeah, I was gonna actually mention something similar, but since you mentioned it, then I don't need to. But when we talk about something else that you mentioned about the immigration aspect of it, what a lot of Bahamians don't understand is, in fact, I had a kid at the school I was at in West Virginia whose her, oh God, what is it? Anyway,
I-20.
Yes, got canceled simply because she didn't check in with the officer when she reported to campus, and so they didn't know that she was there. Right, and so it's a whole lot of rules, and for simple stuff like that, you can have your I-20 canceled, and you have to leave, go back home to the Bahamas. So that's one of the things. And another thing is, I find that just the adjustment from being in a new and different place is difficult for international students. And like Coach Yo said, simply because they're in a new environment and they get hooked up with the wrong crowd and don't realize that what's good for the goose ain't always good for the gander in this particular situation. And so they end up getting themselves into real problems. But again, and I understand that a lot of parents can drop, in my situation, a lot of international parents didn't even accompany their kids to college. They put them on a flight and send them to me. And I got to take responsibility for them because I asked you for your kid. And now I got to be responsible because you didn't even have time to come and bring them. And that's difficult for us in our sport, volleyball. That starts the minute school starts. So kids are on campus almost a month before classes actually start. And so by the time classes start, even if the parents came, the parents are already gone because they can't stay there for a month. And so there's a whole lot of things that kids and parents have to understand and realize when you transitioning your kid from high school in the Bahamas to college in the US, there are a whole lot of things that you have to take into consideration, and you have to take responsibility and be a part of your kid's life. Otherwise, things could go haywire, and once it goes haywire, it's almost impossible to fix, because if they send your kid home out of the country, you know what you got to go through to get them back here. In fact, for us as coaches, it ain't worth the trouble. And so we try to make sure that they don't get themselves in the problem where they have to leave, because it's almost impossible to get them back.
Go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
On that also. Now, I know, being from the family islands, you know, Eleuthera in the house, I know that for me, my parents really didn't have it, you know, to continue flying up every single time to check on me. But I also knew that they put a certain value in me to know that you go into school to learn and to get an education and to run track. So that means basically fly underneath the radar. You only answer when you need to answer, and you only speak when you're spoken to. And so I learned those values early. And like I said, some parents really can't come to you as much as you would want them to come. But at the same token in time, I mean, they can always call or check in now with the coaches just to find out how the kids are actually doing, you know. That's what I had to do. I would call, or my parents would speak to my coaches on the telephone, and you know, they would know how I am doing. I mean, or I would speak with them on the phone and they would know what's what. But as to say, flying to America from Eleuthera, you're talking about round trip coming from Eleuthera to Nassau is already an arm and a leg. So getting from Nassau, flying into the US, that's another half of the body. So when you calculate that up, I mean, it had to be to where it was in time for basically your sophomore year or graduation, and then you'll see them. But not everybody can afford it. So, you know, that's all I'm saying. But at the same time, kids in the Bahamas know what we're here for. You don't hear about African kids who are here to school, or you don't hear from the European kids being kicked out or causing trouble or anything like that. But we have to let our kids know what their primary focus is when they get here, and stay focused and basically stay the course, you know, because parents can't monitor them every day. So the kids need to know what their role are and play it. And that's as safe and sound as it gets, you know.
Right. I mean, like I said earlier, it's very difficult to be a student athlete. And I don't think that people fully appreciate the 6 a.m. to 11 o'clock at night. Almost every single hour of your day is being, you have an obligation to be somewhere and be doing something. So being a student athlete is not just practice, and it's not just competition. It is lift, it is tutoring, it is classes, it is going to the athletic trainer, sometimes going to the nutritionist, like depending on, you know, where your school is. So it's very demanding. I don't think people know how demanding it is. So just know what you're getting into, I guess, because Division I is way different from Division III. And you can be a student athlete at both of those institutions. But at Division I, just know, like, that's a heavy lift. And at Division III, it's less of a lift. The other thing I would also say is use your resources. So once again, we're coming from a small island, you know, a small archipelago of islands where we know we are under-resourced. While we have a great deal of talent, we are under-resourced. But when you get to these institutions, like at a Division I level or a Division III level, whatever, a lot of resources there, a lot of people there who are there to help you. Student athletes don't use them. When it comes to our international students, I was an international student. I take all the international students under my wing because I know it's a big transition coming from whether it's Nassau, Bahamas or Sweden to North Philadelphia. Like Coach Yo said, the food for Caribbean student athletes, the weather, also like the environment. We're used to like beaches and beauty, and it's just very urban. Oh, I call it an urban oasis. So for me, I really try to take them under my wing and let them know what they should be. Like I always say, you don't know, but you got to go find out. It's not okay to not know. So using the resources and knowing what you're getting yourself into as international students, because if you have a good fit, right? If you know what you're getting yourself into, and then you have a good fit, then the outcomes or the benefits are huge. You could be winning all over. But if you make a bad fit because you didn't know what you were getting into, you might even end up completing your degree. And as a student athlete, like Chris said, you're a student. You went there to get a degree and an education. And athletics is the vehicle that's enabling you to get that.
One last thing that I would tie up with that is just to be honest with yourself, and to be honest with yourself and saying that you love the sport that you want to do, because it's a huge sacrifice when you're coming this far away from home, and sometimes the first time being away from home. You just got to be honest with yourself and saying that, I love this sport, whether it's basketball, track, volleyball, softball. Just know that, that you would give anything to be doing it. And because if you don't love it, and if you don't understand what kind of sacrifice, it will be hard.
Yes, thank you, Coach Clayton. Albert, would you like to?
Well, yeah, those are just such great comments. One of the things that we found from the years of dealing with our student athletes from the Bahamas, I mean, they're passionate, they're so respectful, they're great teammates, they have, their character speaks for itself, and you want to make sure that you temper that with the new environment that requires a lot of structure. And, you could be a great athlete, but that basketball coach wants you to play defense. So you're going to have to change, because, athletes without character are easily replaced, and that aren't willing, as some of the coaches said, to take that extra level of commitment and resiliency that's required. But if they're not prepared to be disciplined about time management, about communicating, being on time, going to class, that full embodiment of a student athlete, that requires a lot. And everyone that spoke speaks to that so eloquently, but it's hard. It's hard. You got to pack your bag and have a lot of character and be willing to take some punches along the way. And the rewards are there. You grow as a person, you grow as a student athlete, and it's certainly worth it. But you got to have discipline before you leave home and be prepared to change.
Okay, thank you, Albert. I have one last question before we take the questions from the Q&A. We're heading toward the end of this segment soon. What is your university or your program doing to prepare its student athletes for life after college? How has your mission changed since, if it has?
What was the last part? You broke up.
How has your mission changed since COVID-19?
Okay, I'll jump in. I don't think our mission has changed. I think, though, the one lesson that COVID has taught us is that there's really no certainty, right? And that we ought to be, as individuals, flexible enough to adapt to changes that come before us. One thing I always assure my staff and coaches and athletes about is that we'll get through this. I mean, there was a 1913 pandemic. I'm sure they felt the same way we're feeling, like, oh my God, this thing isn't gonna end. I mean, I come to you from a biblical perspective. Hey, there's a season for everything. Okay, so this too will pass. And so I try to give them that assurance that, what have you learned from COVID? What has COVID taught you? What skills have you garnered? Right? So the reality of it is all of us should have gotten better during COVID. Should have challenged yourself to some baking, I mean, you know, personal skills. So, I mean, I think at the end of the day, all of our goals and missions remain the same. And that is, we focus on the person, we focus on the student athlete, and we focus on the student, and we focus on the athlete. And so, you know, again, you know, if we keep those three things at the fore, that at the end of the day, we want to produce, as we like to say at the University of the Bahamas, we want to produce a citizenry that the country could be proud of. And so, like I always tell our student athletes, and I don't care if they're Division I or they're the University of the Bahamas, there's only a small percentage of student athletes that will play professional sport. But you all can be a professional. So go ahead, secure your degree. Let us help you to do that as best as we can and get you started with your life. Because you could be as talented as you want, one injury and boom, that's it.
I thought that was great. I know for me, if anything, the mission has just gotten stronger as far as just teach, develop, and inspire, and trying to be there for the girls. I just think in anybody that's going through something right now has been forced to pivot or adjust. So pretty much we're just working on figuring out how to adjust and make the adjustment as comfortable and seamless to our players as possible. So that's really why we brought our players back on campus. Now, obviously everyone doesn't have, you know, the budget to do that, but we were able to do that. And our players get testing, and it's pretty, you know, the way they have to act when they're in the building is not anywhere way they act when they're outside of the building. But as far as the coaches, we're just trying to be around. I think Dr. Coakley talked about mental health. Like, I just believe in that. That's not something that we're taught in the Bahamas a lot. We're not taught about mental health in the Bahamas, unfortunately. You know, we're taught to suck it up. You know, we're tough it out, you know, don't be no punk, you know. And I just think in 2020, there's so much going on, you know, you have to address these things and try to be there. I know for me personally, if I could have it my way, I would have kept my players home. I wouldn't even have them here. But the reason why I have them here, because for a lot of them, this is a safe place. You know, this is a place where they know where they're going to eat. They know how they're going to eat. They know they have a comfortable bed to sleep in. You know, not everyone's fortunate enough to be in situations where they could be home and be fine. So one thing I've learned about COVID and this time is how important school is, how important that environment is. I just thought it was there for academics, but school is there as a safe haven. School is the only way some people eat, you know, some people get away from abusive situations. So, you know, I try to just look at it half glass full, make sure we're there. We do a lot of team building. We do tons, like meetings, check-ins, how you feeling? Hey, this is the word today. This is what we want you to do today. And just trying to bond and be close. We don't even talk about the season because there's too much anxiety towards that. Right now, we just focus on the now. And right now we can get close as a unit. And that's what we're doing.
So I'm going to just segue into what Coach said, live in the moment. Okay. So one of my areas, so that focus on the now, because that's all we can control. So once again, back to that control the controllables. Kimberley said we have to plan for the future, but I always say plan for the future, but you got to live in the moment, because back to that transition piece, we don't know when it's gonna like end. And so like I was in Fort Worth when they canceled the season. We were at our conference tournament about to start, and then they canceled the season. And my seniors, that was it. That was it for them. And I looked at them and I just hope that they could say, like, that last game we played, I didn't take it for granted. Because, you know, like, well, that's what I tell our student athletes, don't take any of this for granted, because you don't know. And they had a very, very real dose of, you don't know what could happen. I'm always saying, you never know what will happen. So live in a moment, prepare for the future, but live in a moment. Don't take things for granted. And as it pertains to like transition, that's my area. That's what I did my dissertation in. So even if you are somebody who's going to be a professional athlete, you still have to prepare for life after that. So we want to teach them to prepare for life after sport, regardless of when it comes. If it comes after 2 years of junior college, 4 years of college, 8 years of medical school, or 12 years as a professional, it's going to happen, and you're going to be young. So that's definitely something I focus on. I don't want, the athletic identity is important to student athletes, but it's not the only identity that they have. And so one of the things I do is I'm constantly trying to cultivate these other parts. And one of the things that has come out of COVID-19 for my student athletes is they've become very socially active in terms of social justice. And that is making, like, they are participating and they're getting so involved, and they are developing parts of their identity that if they had sport right now, wouldn't be getting developed. So that's something that's kind of been a positive for them, because when they do complete their athletic careers, they don't start developing that stuff. They've already been developing other aspects of themselves. So my mission remains the same. Take care of the student athlete now and in the future.
Thank you. Okay. No other comments on that question. Okay, to the Q&A. We have a question from an anonymous attendee. They ask specifically, Coach Yo, any advice to student athletes coming from JUCO going to Division I basketball?
It's really about putting yourself in a situation where you can have exposure. And again, like I said, it's unfortunately not all coaches are doing their job. Really what they should be doing is getting you out there so that coaches can know about you. So my advice is, one, have a conversation with your coach. Hey, my aspirations are to go to Division I, and I want to know how you can help me with that. That's the first. Secondly, if they don't help, which unfortunately some do, send film, because if you're playing in JUCO, you have film. And most times your film, we can pull it up on Synergy. You don't even have to send it. So sometimes it's just figuring out how to make contact with that university. And that's pretty easy because they're on all social media forms. Every coach has a social media, majority of them. And if not the head coach, the assistant coach, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. So I would encourage you to get on that. And then lastly, I am all for people. Obviously, y'all see the no ceilings behind. I believe that you should shoot for the moon, right? But I don't want anybody in here to be discouraged. Like, Division I is not the only way. You have to think about what it is you want to achieve, and so just don't, if you do not get what you want from Division I, don't think it's the end of the world. There are other divisions, Division II, Division III, NAIA, where you can still get the same education and a great experience. And I think that's what you need to look for. And I'm hoping that the University of Bahamas gets into a conference. So maybe when I'm big time enough, you guys will hire me on, eh?
You had stepped away momentarily when I said that Coach Yo's staff is bigger than my entire athletic department. So thanks for the flattery, but it gets you nowhere.
I'm blessed.
Yeah. Thanks for the flattery, though.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah. One of the things I wanted to address was the advantages of a JUCO. Having coached at four-year institution, one of the things as coaches we want, would like, is to have kids play for us for 4 years. But having coached at a JUCO, what I realized that it's an advantage for coaches, but for a student athlete, I think it is wholly advantageous for them to go to a JUCO, and let me tell you why. When you enter JUCO for 2 years, you're competing for playing time with another sophomore. So you're competing with freshmen and sophomore. You go to a 4-year school, you are competing with freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. Your opportunity for playing time, unless you are a stud, is very limited. And so I would recommend now that kids, if you don't think you can step on the court and get some playing time at a 4-year school, go to JUCO route, because by the time you get done, you would have had 2 years of playing experience compared to someone who went to a 4-year school as a freshman and sat on the bench behind people. They might know the system that they're playing in, but they don't have the playing experience. And in my experience, I've recruited JUCO kids, and because my sophomores, freshmen and sophomores sat on the bench for 2 years, they didn't have the experience that the JUCO kids had. And so I find that that's an advantage. So a lot of people look, I want to go to Division I, but if you're not at the level where you can just step in and start, or at least get some playing time, a JUCO is not a bad option. Go to JUCO route, get the experience, and a lot of times you can step in and take a starting position from a freshman or sophomore that came up in the system.
I think I would totally echo that, just in terms of, being a JUCO product myself and having the opportunity to, and it's not so much just the playing time, it's the maturity and growth that you can get at a 2-year level. There's smaller schools, smaller classrooms, a lot of resources, and not to mention that there are some JUCOs that do it in a really nice way. They have the resources, they have the financial stability that, they have some of the things that smaller Division I schools don't have. So, I would encourage everybody, if you're struggling, and not so much struggling, but, if you, don't feel like that where you want to be academically, then JUCO is the best route, because, we have those resources, and then, you get an opportunity, and we tell all of our kids, you come here, if you do the 2 things we ask you to do, and that's to be the best student you can be and be the best athlete you can be, you can write your ticket to the next level. So, I definitely echo the sentiment that, not always going to a 4-year school may not be for everybody. I got 2 daughters that are college athletes, and I got one that's in the Power 5 conference now playing softball, and I got another one that's with me at McLennan playing softball, and one was ready and one wasn't, and they're both succeeding. And so I would just tell you just have to know what your abilities are and what's best for you. And just because it's Division I doesn't mean that it's always for everybody.
And one thing, just real quick, I just wanted to mention with that is on that, because I'm the type of person, if that's something that you want, I want to speak to that, because I agree with what everyone's saying. If you want to go to Division I from the Bahamas, then you need to educate yourself on what is needed for you to be able to do that. Okay? The Bahamas government has made it difficult, and the United States has made it difficult for you to go straight there. You have to get BGCSEs. You have to get those. You have to get 5 of those. All right. You have to then take the SAT or ACT. And then your classes that you take, you have to get a certain level, numbers of math, years of English, years of a foreign language. Like, there's a lot that goes on. Unfortunately, not enough people educate you all on that procedure. International students, especially in the Caribbean, right? I can't speak for other parts, but they're not educated on it. So like, you don't even know you need all of this. So you think the only thing you can do is go JUCO. Luckily for me, I have parents and friends that were able to help me, and we understood what we had to do. But if that's something you really want to do, educate yourself. Go on to the university, call admissions office. Hey, what do I need? And you can't say, oh, I want to do it now when you're in the 12th grade. Your process starts from the 9th grade. Okay? So 9, 10, 11, and 12. All right? So from you, when you know this, if you even, I think the most powerful people have options. You could just do what you need to do. And if you don't want to, you can take the junior college route or whatever route you want to take. But it starts early, or you're gonna have to, you don't even have a choice. You have to go to one of those schools, to a junior college, because you don't have the credentials. And I would hate for that to happen, because one thing I know about the Bahamas, we breed high level talent.
And again, if what she's saying doesn't make any sense to you, please sign up for the Bahamas Stars program. And that's the next thing. Take advantage. I commend the persons that are here absorbing this information. That's another thing we struggle with as Bahamians. We don't show up. This is a free event with 7 to 8 head coaches, athletic directors. So I commend you for taking an hour and a half, 2 hours out of your time to just come here and absorb information, free information. If this was an in-person event, you could pay anywhere up to $500, $600 for something like this, to have these persons at your disposal. So I commend you for that. Okay, I think we have one more question that we're going to take about the Q&A. Cheryl asks, should a student athlete wait to be recruited or just be a walk-on if the opportunity presents? So some insight on waiting to be recruited or walking on.
I just want to say right now in COVID, we just had a meeting about this today. We're not doing any work like tryouts because all of that stuff has, you know, like to be in facilities, you have to have testing, and like we're not going to test a student that maybe going to get on a team. So we're like right now, no, we're not doing any walk-ons or tryouts or anything like that. So that's just for right now. I just want to put that out there because that's what we're dealing with today.
Okay. Which social media platform would you say would be the best for exposure and posting film on?
All. If you could post on one, you could post on all.
I would say the same thing. All.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like what Coach Joe said. It's good to have options. Why limit yourself by just going on Twitter? Not everybody's on Twitter. Not everybody's on Instagram. I just got an Instagram account a month ago. So, you know, not everybody's there, but I've been on Twitter for years. So go, once again, know like the fit, like cast a wide net based on what you want to accomplish, what your goals are, Division I, Division II, whatever it is, engineering degree, don't forget about that. Like some athletic departments discourage student athletes from taking high-level academic courses. That's a thing in some institutions. So if, like at Temple, we have, I think, over 100 majors in our athletic department. But at some schools, that number is like 30. It's very limited because nursing students have a very rigorous academic schedule that conflicts with an athletic, also very rigorous. So just, these are things to know. So that fit is important.
Yes, very tough to complete a nursing degree as a student athlete.
And then I would just say, Jurelle, that the student athlete just email the head coach or the assistant coach. I mean, even as the athletic director, I fielded a number of emails, and you know, the email hits differently because it says that this person took the time to look me up and to write me. And so that usually sticks out, you know, with an athletic administrator or a head coach. And so, I mean, everybody's email is posted on their website, easy to find. And so, you know, just reach out and find out some information via email.
I completely agree. I completely agree. I know that I had this season alone, I had a bunch of kids basically reaching out to me, and they wanted to know, hey, what is the requirements? What do I need to do? How fast do I need to run to get into your program? And I think I've heard from more student athletes than I've heard from coaches this season, and it's shocking. I mean, but that's what you have to do in order for you to know what you're worth. You know, coach may only see sometimes the top 2 athletes on the team, or he may feel as though I only have 3 kids that are good, but you may be the 4th or 5th kid that may not be as good at the time, but the coach eyes on Division 1, Division 2, and this kid is looking like, hey, I just want the opportunity, so give me the opportunity to at least go into a school somewhere. And so they email themselves, and what do you know? I mean, sometimes we take a chance and we be like, hey, you're not Division 1 material, but you take you at the Division 2 level, and those kids end up becoming superstars later on. And a lot of people say, man, that kid wrote to me, or I had the opportunity to meet that kid and I didn't take him, and they end up missing out. So I know because I lived it. And so, you know, people want to be able to see the kid reach out, just like you said, you know, it's the platform. They have a platform that we didn't have back in the day, to where we could have reached out to several coaches. The opportunity that I had back in the day, I had one coach, and she decided that she was only taking, you know, 3 or 4 of the kids, and I got left out. And I felt as though I don't have any way of reaching any coaches. So these kids have a great platform on social media to reach out and get their answers answered and voice heard. So it's a great platform, and I think every kid should be using it. So they need to just be proactive.
Thank you, Chris. Oh, we have an interesting question from Michael Walking. He asks, do you think, and maybe this one can be directed to the athletic directors, do you think universities can incorporate live virtual dual meets within their conference? For example, a university swim team competing at their university's aquatic center against another team that is competing in their university's pool. This can also be used for non-contact sports like track and field. So any thought given to that, ladies?
I saw that question and I was like, wow, that's pretty innovative. And I saw it and I wondered, like, how would you maintain the integrity? But I guess you just have refs come to one pool and the other pool, or one track, and, you know, have refs, and then they report the scores. So I haven't heard anything like that, but that's great outside the box thinking, and that's what we need right now, outside the box thinking. So thank you, Michael. I'll take it back.
Awesome.
I can chime into that. Right now on the professional level, professional athletes, they need to run a certain amount of meets in order for them to keep their contracts eligible. And so they're setting up virtual competition. So you can be racing me in Florida. I could be here in Georgia. You could be in the Bahamas. We have it set up to where we all run in the same distance. And once the gun goes off, the first person across the finish line is determined the winner. So I definitely think that for this season, that's definitely going to be the way to go. But we all know that our kids love outdoors, and they love face-to-face action, and they like heat-to-heat battles of the indoors and the outdoors competition. So I think that's a great way to be right now until we can get the ball rolling back to normal, whatever the new normal is. But I think that's definitely a way to be right now.
Hi, Chris, I have a question for you. Is that happening simultaneously, or are you doing it like at 10 a.m. and somebody else is doing it at like 2 in the afternoon?
No, it's simultaneous.
Simultaneously?
Yeah, you have some athletes right now. Some of them are in Australia, and some of them are here, and they doing competitions where there's a time difference, you know, and some of them are actually getting the competition in at the same time. And it's just so good that the computer now has actually come in handy for us, because you're able to watch live competition, and they still getting their competition. And so it's good, but you know, we love the outdoors, so I prefer the outdoors better, you know. Tradition.
Okay, Albert.
Yeah, we've had a lot of discussion around that, and you know, including take a sport like golf where you could apply an index to each golf course, and you know, it's not perfection, but it still creates that you know, cauldron of competition. And cross country running is another one. Some sports lend itself better to others, skiing and so on. But you know, there's nothing like face-to-face combat, and it's not always going to work. But you know, that's the new reality. Is we've got to create these opportunities. Even, you know, we've had a discussion earlier today about the whole concept of esports and taking some of our athletes that, you know, might want to compete and have a fun way of getting to identify with other schools across the country, pushing that pedal in terms of identity and making sure that we create some stories. And that's what it comes to. We got next 6 months here to make sure that, you know, a lot of the personalities, and it's no secret, you know, a good student athlete tends to create for other students at your institution because of the profile and the influence that they have. So we've got to put them into competition and create some stories around them.
Okay, thank you. Not sure if this was mentioned, but seeing that we're in COVID-19 and all sports are canceled, or most sports are canceled, will any of the institutions on the panel still offer scholarships for 2021? And what will happen to those persons that are on scholarship if the seasons are canceled?
Well, we hadn't stopped recruiting. I mean, if I do one more recruiting call, my head is going to explode because we are Zooming our lives away, FaceTiming. This is the most we've interacted with prospects, honestly, because usually they're busy, we're busy. And all of a sudden they got all this time. And you also know when they're not interested because they don't reach, you can't get them on the phone, and where could they be? There ain't really much going on. Yeah, so right now we're in the dead period, so we cannot go out recruiting. And this is our recruiting period. And this would have been our recruiting period. So I wouldn't have been able to do this had this been normal. And then they can't come on campus, obviously due to COVID and state laws. So we're being patient and we're waiting. And so whoever's in the 21 class, well, we have some prospects that we're aggressively recruiting. We will sign them when we can. I know for the spring sports that lost their season, they got their year. They had the option to get their year back, but 2 years in a row, I guess you got to talk to the ADs. I don't know how they're going to manage that. So, because that's going to be interesting and expensive, you know, because life is going on. And I think that's why so many schools are pushing to, hey, let's get back, let's get going, because of the effects in the long run.
Here at McLennan, we are going to honor all of our 2021 scholarships, whether we play or not. Our plan is to have our student athletes, like I said earlier, back on campus in the fall. If we end up going remote, we will try to continue to keep our athletes on campus. And if we have where the teams and the games are canceled, we will still honor those scholarships through the spring, and probably help all of our sophomores graduate if they have classes that they need to take in the summer. So our college is committed to kids that we've committed to, and so I think that that's a good thing.
Thank you.
We've
go ahead.
we've honored all our scholarship offers that we've had for returning student athletes and our new recruits. But to be honest, you know, as athletic director, I'll speak to each one of them with the expectation that if there is no field of competition, that they're expected to lead when they're on scholarship. And that could be, leading training, leading, the role modeling their role as a student athlete, but also any community work we have to do and so on to be that well-rounded citizen that we expect them to be.
Thank you. Okay, thank you all. Unfortunately, we have a few other questions in there. Panelists, if you still have time, you can feel free to jump in the Q&A and you can type your response to those questions. I see Coach Yo, there's another one in there for you. But I'd like to take this time to thank everyone, especially our panelists. I truly appreciate you taking the time during these times to pour into the lives of Bahamians and everyone else watching. I truly appreciate you. I believe Coach Jill said that when you have an opportunity to get knowledge, I mean, you just show up, you take advantage of the opportunity. And this has been insightful for me as well. And I truly appreciate you. I'm going to turn the mic over to our host, Ms. Monique Hinsey, who I work alongside of, and she'll just give us some closing remarks.
Good night, everyone. We're so grateful tonight to have athletic celebrities in the house.
Okay.
We're so grateful to have the athletic personalities and superstars in the house. So grateful to have Albert Roche and Chris Fireman Brown, Dr. Stephany Coakley, Edric Poitier, Kimberley Rolle from UB, Shawn Trochim, and Yolett McPhee-McCuin, who I hear about almost every day. It has been an absolute pleasure. I think it was about 7 years ago when I was transitioning from one state to another. I knew that I wanted to do something, despite the fact that I had been working in the community for a number of years. I knew that I wanted to do something that would have brought the attention to basically dissecting the college student or dissecting the high school student to ensure that the student was being prepared on every level. Working with the band, working with athletic departments, and hearing directly from colleges and universities who would have expressed some of their concerns and just saying to me, listen, the level of opportunities that was available out there. And so I began some years ago just trying to bring the pieces all together. And as the Lord would have had it, I've connected with Jurelle, who kind of was the hand and glove to the athletic arm of it. And I'm just grateful tonight that she has been able to pull you in to be a part of this conversation. As we talk about COVID and the more articles we read and talk shows and news headlines about COVID, I realized that more and more parents, educators, and students were becoming quite wary and concerned about the impact of COVID on higher education. And particularly those student athletes who really had a lot of questions, those that were in position to begin their collegiate year in the fall, and then those that are in the pipeline with so much uncertainties of what is going to happen or what is going to become of collegiate athletics. And so I'm just grateful tonight that you would have taken the time out to share this space with us to heighten the conversation, to heighten the awareness and sensitivity. You know, I was in the corner and cheering you on, Coach Yo, when you talked about, you know, the role of parents in the process. I have been saying this for so many years. And even as tonight's showcase focuses on athletics, we cannot say enough how important the role of parents in the whole gamut of college preparation is. From the athletic to the social to the academic. So often, you know, parents want their kids to go to college and they don't understand that there is a level of investment that has to be there on a day-to-day basis. We see it. We see kids who have been afforded full scholarships, and because they did not have that social support, many of them abandoned their college dreams because that component of having family and loved ones cheer them on. Yeah, I hear Fireman Brown as he talked about the expense, and particularly in coming from the island. But the one thing I want to say that we have witnessed and been, you know, front and center to, people will invest in you if they see the years. I can't tell you the amount of students over the years that I have been afforded and blessed to be a blessing to just because they were serious. But what I found is that there are some students and parents alike who don't understand that this is a partnership. This is a partnership that is required a certain portion of the student, certain portion of the family contribution, certain contribution of the college. And if nothing else tonight, I think you all echoed that loud and clear. And so for those that are in attendance, whether you are an educator, whether you are a parent, whether you are a coach, this is the message that you must continue to echo. In addition to something else that you've said, the importance of early college preparation. Whether you are a student athlete or not, it begins so much earlier. I've been saying this for 20 years. Everybody wants to get a scholarship, but nobody understands the level of work and preparation that is required to be able to yield such an opportunity. So just like I've been preaching for many years on the academic arm, you've come tonight to reinforce what we have been saying. I know most days Jurelle perhaps feels like a Lone Ranger trying to solidify everything that you would have said tonight in one voice and in one space. But we thank you for just making our voices a little bit louder tonight, because we have 7 of you on board. And so, you know, so often, you know, when you are just a little homegirl, you really don't have much validity. And so we got to bring people like you guys to give us some validity, to know that what we have been saying makes a little bit of sense. So thank you so much for helping us to heighten the crucial conversation of higher education and the world of athletics. Please don't forget to complete the polls before you leave. I'm going to turn it back over to Coach Mullings.
Thank you, Ms. Hinsey. I think she said it all. She definitely did. And I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to work alongside this lady. But thank you all to my panelists. Thank you, attendees. And without further ado, I would like to dismiss everyone. So enjoy your evenings and get back to life during COVID.
And Chris made it. Chris didn't think he would
Oh,
make
yes. Chris, you made it.
it. You made it through the 2 hours.
Now you can take your nap.
I know. Look, it was exciting. It was great. I enjoyed the opportunity, and I look forward to us doing more of this. You know, not just when COVID hit, but you know, we need to engage with our students and our athletes at home. And I think this is just the beginning of great things. So I encourage you to continue to do more of this, and this will help our kids to know what they need to do, and it makes us one. You know, so I encourage more of this. Thank you for having me, and a great panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Same here. And if I can make a suggestion, perhaps we can do another one that really touches on the process and the procedure for getting into colleges for these kids. Like how to go through the actual process, what's needed. Because I think that's what a lot of the kids don't understand.
I have commitments from everyone for phase 2. Okay.
I think he was speaking for himself.
No,
No.
but Coach, we're gonna need you because you're gonna have to let them know what's needed to get in a Division One.
Stay away, please.
To the SEC.
Yes, exactly.
Thank y'all.
Miss Rolle, this is a good time for you to keep the homebred at home. You know, this is a perfect time.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna try. This is like you said, this is a perfect time. But we've had an uptick in our numbers.
Yeah.
And you know, I think though that, you know, COVID, but we've also been hard working on building our brand too, you know.
That's right. No.
And so you got hey, like we like to say in the Bahamas, right? And I tell our coaches this all the time. I say, you want fans? Win. You all know Bahamas,
right.
go.
That's right.
Like winners, we're not interested in the process, right?
Yeah.
We have to work the process. That's our job. They want winners. So you want the fans to come? Win. And I mean, we've seen it with our track and field team. We've seen it with our basketball team, you know. And it's just, you know, we're not a Division One, but we're building our brand. And every day we chip away. And it's like I say, at the end of the day, it's about giving kids opportunities. You know, that's it at the end of the day.
The Mingos. Yeah.
Mingos, go Mingos.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Jurelle, you definitely have my support for round 2.
Yeah, this was awesome. If I can make it, for sure. And Chris, I have to come see you. I used to be in Jacksonville for 5 years, and you were right up the street. We got to do better.
Yeah.
That's me, Edric. I just got here a year ago though. You left just before Oh, you mean Chris?
Who's at Clayton State?
Me.
Chris.
Yeah. You were Clayton? You were Jackson?
Yeah, I was the head coach at JU at Jacksonville.
JU.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Well, we got to get together, you know, and talk.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt.
Coach Yo, you know Josie?
Of course.
Tell her I said hey.
She was just texting me just now. So I just did a segment with her. We're doing a mental health wellness thing online.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm doing that with women's basketball next week. So
that's good.
We're all doing the same stuff. So.
Okay. Small world. That's what sports does. It brings everybody, you know.
Yeah.
Kim, you still got the jump shot or what?
Automatic, stuck on auto, baby. But the only thing is now, you know, we playing 5-on-5. I only got I have the football version of basketball, so I used to stay on the offensive side of the game.
Hold on.
Hey,
Yeah,
Coach,
hold on. In the right corner.
Coach, she got the shot. I don't know if any jump in it.
Okay.
You got it. This time.
Jokes.
All right, thank y'all.
All right,
It's
everyone.
been good. Y'all be safe, eh?
Have a good night. Thank you very
Pleasure
much.
meeting you, folks.
Nice meeting you
Bye
too.
now.
Hey, Albert. Thank you, Coach Trochim.
How do I do this?
Thank you, Jurelle.
Bye bye.
Great job, Jurelle.
Thank you.